We get into our next conversation for this morning, powered up a little bit, and then be able to go into, okay, so when you make these promises, did you intend to make them? Was there goodwill in the first place? Because we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about it. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to talk about it? Well, we will. Former nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba is here with us this morning. Gloria, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
The outfit is stunning.
I'm feeling Ethiopian vibes.
Okay. Fantastic. We like.
Yeah.
So even as we get into our conversation today, some of the things that we must speak about is that the assumption is that you need to fulfill a promise that you made to the people, if that was your intent. But we're going to go into that after Dennis tells you the country that we are in this week, and we'd love to hear your interpretation of that proverb.
The country we're in today constructed an express highway not long ago. It is a country where we are told in 6 months' time we will deliver. It is equally a country that has the only existing national park in the capital city. It is a country with beautiful beaches. You talk about Diani and you just want to go there. You talk about Kilifi and Watamu with the white sandy beaches. You talk about Turkana and our oil. Perhaps you need to buy land there for exploration and sell a little bit later. We are in Kenya, beautiful country. The proverb that we have today, a cow does not give birth to things that speak. That proverb comes from the Kalenjin community.
A cow does not give birth to?
Things that speak.
Things that speak. Where?
Don't overthink it.
Maybe I'm overthinking because I am not getting it.
Yeah.
A cow does not give birth to things that speak.
Let's say a cow will only give birth to things that moo.
Okay. Meaning, if you have, is it mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka?
That's true. Mtoto wa ngombe ni ngombe.
In essence, a thief is a thief. You give birth to a thief.
Wow.
Well, if you set
a liar is a liar.
Okay.
The child will have a long nose, Pinocchio.
It is your interpretation, and it is never wrong.
You're giving this woman a long rope, and she's just going with it.
A murderer is a murderer.
Wow. Okay.
Basically, the stage that a parent sets for
and
their
it's
child.
A what proverb?
It's
Kenya.
a proverb. It's
Yeah,
Kenya.
from where?
From the Kalenjin.
From the Kalenjin community.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
So interesting that this week we're looking at a number of things that were said that would be done, and we want to come from the premise in just taking a different. We've had this conversation, but we're taking it in a different angle and asking, was there ever intent to fulfill these promises in the first place? Or was it, fly by the seat of your pants declaration at the moment when you said, okay, well, I'm feeling like I can tell these guys that I can do something and maybe it'll push me on. What was it really? Kenyans would like to know, to an extent, did you really mean that you were going to do this, or was it just in the moment and it was euphoric?
Now that I reflect on it, having been there when the promises were drafted, having been part of the team that drafted the manifesto, and actually a huge contributor of the Women Charter Manifesto, now that I reflect on things that have happened, how they have happened, who has made them happen, I think it was a long con. I think it was I think we participated in setting the stage for a con man. And maybe the excitement was, in a sense, being part of a team that's going to be a change maker. And I believe most of the people who actually sat in those rooms to draft the manifesto, to pledge on those promises from the education sector, health, women, all that, were driven by the idea of renewed hope. And in essence, we were like, very excited children who have been told that we are going to the park and we can see the park. Yeah. And so in that excitement, you just participate in the whole thing. And then you reach the gates of the park. Literally, we step into the park and the teacher rings the bell and says, it's time to go.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you haven't entered you've not come out of the bus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that is, I think in a way, the party leader of UDA and the leader of that campaign and the presidential candidate is a smart conman.
Gloria, one thing that we have to credit, that let me give you your flowers, because at the formation of the Women's Charter under UDA, it is an agenda that you did not just leave it as a document. You went with it to the Senate, you pushed things around, and that even got you to problems at the time.
Yes.
And we look at how you stood on business and what that led to you even being kicked out of the party. And this is where then delivery question comes in, because if you met the promise and there is someone who's seen to be pushing the implementation and the delivery of the same, and you kick them out, then did you have the intention from the word go to implement the promises you gave?
And that's why I said at the beginning, looking back and reflecting, and in the actions and inactions of the leadership of this ship that we were in, there was never any intent. There was never any intent. And you learn. I have learned a lot from that whole experience, being in a campaign team, running the campaign, being part of formulating promises, and then seeing things unfold. I've learned. And in fact, one of the lessons learned is that I have now understood when to see the red flag and distance myself from either an individual or, because you start seeing the pattern.
And what's that pattern?
The pattern is someone who excites you with some sort of, you can say, track record from their past. Because, when you're sitting in those rooms, if I come and tell you, guys, I used to be, an engineer and I am the one who did ABCD, then you're the credibility thing. So you get excited about, we have this person who has been there. He has never lost any election. Remember, that was the basis on which we were having those conversations. William Ruto has never lost any election. Everything he has vied for, he has won. Every intent of office he has gone for, he has gotten. So at the time, really, it's exciting because you're like, by the way, this guy has never lost an election. Yeah, by the way, this guy, even when he was, and anything that was brought to our attention, for instance, there were instances that we were being told, your candidate is strong in this area, but these are some of the things that guys are questioning. And it will be covered very quickly with, he's an underdog and they're just, targeting him for ABCD. So there's that understanding now that it comes with some sort of excitement of being in a winning team, so to speak. And then you sort of lose focus on the nitty-gritties. Because, for instance, when we started looking at the promises, the gallery of lies, then I told myself, let me have a refresher course and go back to the manifesto that we created. And I realized that the 4 priorities, and it was listed, the core priorities had nothing to do with women. And you see, I was brought in as a person who would push and drive the women agenda so we can get the women's votes. That should have been the first red flag, that when we went down to documenting, it said that they will prioritize agriculture, MSME, housing, healthcare, and digital superhighway. Yet, the majority of voters who put William Ruto in office were women. And the women charter that we fought for so hard was never a priority, even in documentation. So, the excitement of being in a team that's looking like, we are going to this exciting place, you look and you're like, now looking back, why didn't we push to have the documentation that the women charter would be a priority in the pillars? And So it just slipped. So it is in the manifesto as an annex of some sort. And that should have been the first red flag, because when William Ruto towards the end realized that the Hustler Nation movement is gaining traction and everything, but then he realized that he's not going to get the youth vote. He realized that towards the end. We quickly were told, okay, come together, let's go back. We reverted to the women. So at that point, even, that's when, if you ask me, we should have been like, okay, if it's the women that are going to take you to State House, priority number one should be the women agenda. But I guess,
So why didn't you ask at that point?
As I told you, it's a stupid excitement, being part of, the winning team. We were sold for this idea that this person has never lost anything.
However, the same person, when he was in the Ministry of Agriculture, there was probably one of the biggest agriculture scandals that there was when he sat at the helm of that ministry. It's the same individual who sat before the ICC with questions about what had happened. Shouldn't those have been the red flags?
Yes. And in all fairness, one thing that Kenyans don't know is how William Ruto deals with creating his movement or his people or the followers. For instance, we used to meet every week as the communications team. And we used to meet with him every week. And you remember that time he was a deputy president. And every week, he would give us audience to ask him all these questions, because remember, it was not only that, there was also the guy who died from Harambee House Annex, the security guy. So all these things were coming in the news, and all these things were being revived. And one of the things that William Ruto is smart about is he would meet you and he would give you the opportunity to ask him these questions. And so, you'd say, okay, in the newspapers today, we are now dealing with this. We would like to understand what happened as your team before we start defending or supporting what. And in all fairness, we would always leave that boardroom convinced.
Inspired.
Okay. And out ready to defend, because our candidate is being accused. And he would give extensive reasons believable reasons as to what is happening, why it's happening. And the difference between, at that time, working for, and I know this because I had friends who are on the other side of the campaign. The difference was that on the other side of the campaign, you would never be able to ask the candidate anything. And so it became difficult to defend the candidate. Okay. And the candidate put up you can't criticize me kind of campaign. So you would find that we ended up, it's like, as I keep saying, it's like a cult. It's like a cult. Sometimes you come out of it and you're like, what was happening? So, but there was always this efforts to cover up the red flags. And the efforts seemed sincere. Because, for instance, being given audience at that time with a deputy president, the room full of critics in communications department, shooting questions as to what, what's happening. And then the candidate would answer and give. And he'd come prepared, even with like facts of, this is what, and you need to look at the research on this and that. And then, as I said, he's a pretty smart conman.
Okay. Yeah. But and I guess to an extent, even with that inspiration and validation, you helped him to perpetuate that persona.
Yes, I did.
Whereby the red flags would not need to be looked at. But
and I always say, being my first rodeo, being my first time in that space, I mean, I'm allowed. I think I am allowed to have been gullible.
So the things that we bring, the things that we bring up here, and when I think about them, I look at them now, and I say, well, those should have actually been the red flags, not these other things that we are saying where maybe you feel inspired, but you feel a certain kind of way. So that fair enough that's been established. But let's look at these things, Gloria, that you all said you would do.
Yeah.
In detail.
Let's go into it. Yeah.
In detail.
Yeah.
And I from an objective point of view here, to say maybe there's too many things going on. Maybe there are too many balls in the air. And to then maybe go and make an additional promise over one thing over the other, it's ludicrous to me. That you sort out one thing, and we did the roads yesterday from Mandera to Ramu, and then you go to Elwak, and I said, you know what? Okay, do Mandera to Ramu, and Finish that one. Do that one before you talk about going to the next place and everywhere else until you get to at the end of the rainbow and you find a pot of gold.
Ethiopia.
Do Ethiopia. Do Mandera to Ramu. When you had those conversations, why couldn't you say hello, folks? When you say to Elwak and Mogadashu and all that, why wouldn't you just say, guys, can we do Mandera to Ramu?
One thing you have to realize is immediately, we got in. Almost immediately. I would say less than 3 months. The dust has settled. Everybody has landed where they have landed. And then you're like, okay, that was a good campaign. Very good. Congratulations, everybody, wherever you are, blah, blah, blah. Now let's get down to business. Is when many of us realize this guy has no intention. No intention. Because, we even had things that we were going to fulfill within 100 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he only did 2. It was the judges who were supposed to have been sworn in.
Yeah.
And there was one other, which was made in the same week. I forget. But we had a whole list. We had a whole list of things, injustices that had been happening when we were on the other side, of course, in the opposition. And even when people, including pending bills, pending bills was a big thing. We pending bills was something that everywhere we went, we would pledge and say, the small business owners are suffering. They're closing shop. It was a problem from county level to national level and everything. And you just literally like month 3 in realize this guy doesn't want to do anything. Yeah, because something that did not require even a cabinet paper, it just required the goodwill, a pronunciation to the team, and he would not do it. It would not. I mean, the 2/3 gender rule, to apply it in cabinet, who can he blame for not actually having a third of cabinet? He is the appointing authority.
Yes.
They kept on trying to say, Senator, we don't have women who are capable. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You have men in there who are literally murderers. And you're telling me we don't have women who are capable. You have appointed serious criminals, and now you're saying out of the more than 50% vote that you got out of women, you're saying there are not enough women to get. So even that, when you started reflecting already, I'm telling you, month 3, then you realize there was no intent. But I want to read for you in the manifesto so that we can laugh. This is going to be like a good joke. So the manifesto. It's a very good thing. I loved this thing because when we even did the photos and put it together, we're like, it was so inspiration. The plan.
The plan, yeah.
The plan.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a plan. We were going out saying we have a plan. And of course, it starts with a letter from the presidential candidate. Why I am running for president. It's a very long, lengthy, sound smart kind of letter. And then I want to just draw your attention to the last paragraph, where he concludes by saying, on 9th August, you will be called to choose between 2 roads. One that leads to constitutional democracy, institutionalized politics, and opening the doors of opportunity to many. The other takes us back to imperial presidency, deeper into personalization of power, and to the inevitable, predictable end of economic apartheid that we see so often around the world. The power is in your hands. Guess...
Now you guys who are being told this.
That's why I said we need to laugh about this, because he literally was like, to the people of Kenya who need to give me this vote. And I actually was like, yes, guys, listen to that. You have 2 roads. One that leads to constitutional democracy, institutionalized politics, and opening of doors of opportunities to many. And the other one takes us back to imperial presidency, deeper into personalization of power and the inevitable, predictable end of economic apartheid that we see so often around the world. So, when you look at that, the paradox of it is that he ended up being the evil one, the one we should have never voted for. Because everything, that last paragraph is supposed to be the thing that he stands, the summary of what you would say, the basis, the fundamental drive of the campaign. And he did the opposite. He literally intentionally went out and watered down every single institution in government and took it over.
If he had upheld the Women's Charter, for example,
yes,
and said that the things that we've brought you in, Gloria, to then come and champion, if he had upheld that and said we're going to put resources behind it, we're going to put manpower behind it and ensure we're going to have 2/3 gender rule applicable across board, would you have stayed?
I probably would have stayed.
You would have stayed?
You know why? Because my entry to that team was on the basis of being a part of a team that's going to push women empowerment. And I was it's called single tunnel vision, focused on one thing: women empowerment, the women charter, the women, such that I probably, if those things that we promised the women of Kenya would have been fulfilled, I probably would have stayed. Because I would have been sitting here telling you, here's the women charter. These are the 15 things that we promised, and this is how we have fulfilled them and surpassed.
Yeah.
You know, we have in fact exceeded expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is the Women Charter, never delivered. There is another promise that was given to Kenyans, and I remember at the time when former President Uhuru Kenyatta was being called out, especially on fuel prices.
Oh yes.
And I remember that conversation very well, because sisi si wajinga bwana, tunajua ni nini imefanyika na hiyo mafuta. There are over 20 taxes and levies in the mafuta, right? But the moment the president had an opportunity to have his own finance bill, the first thing he did was to increase the taxes from 8 to 16.
And as we have heard from other people in government who have come out, not only did he increase, that industry that we kept on saying was monopolized by whoever we were blaming at that time, he just took it over.
Yeah.
You know, the G2G thing? Yeah, he was like, oh, you guys are monopolizing. Now we are going to reduce G2G, but accept it's government to Ruto. So, and he took it over. So at the end of the day, that's why I keep reflecting on some of the things. But for me personally, the Women Charter and the promises that he made, and they were very heavy promises, because they're promises that, when you think about it, that's where we got our votes from the women. When we went out and told the women that we are going to protect them, we are going to make sure that safety is paramount. We are going to ensure, and we are not talking about just physical safety, but safety in all forms, economic, physical. And we had listed the things that we were going to do, including operationalizing the Victim Protection Board. Yeah. And we did nothing, none of it.
Gloria, because I think there's an extent to which Kenyans have come of age, especially when it comes to how they play out the real politic and how there is a connection between their understanding and the vote. It has developed. And so people are able to match things. So if you tell us that, vote for me because this is what I want to do and I want a better Kenya. But then I am living the experience where I see the things that you said that you would do, you did not do. I will not vote that way again in the future, or one would hope. Do you think that that's where it's leading Kenyans right now?
And that's where it should be. If our parliament was not captured by the same person who conned us into this situation, I would say that there should have been a proposed bill where, as a president, you can be impeached for not fulfilling a manifesto promise. And I've said this before, where there should be a framework, a structure that even before a presidential candidate goes to a certain stage of the campaign, they deliver that manifesto within that, required structure from IEBC. It's handed over, it is approved, and then it becomes like a sort of blueprint of what you intend to do. And at that point, I actually think that should also, again, we should amend the constitution that grounds of impeachment should be, one of the grounds of impeachment should be that if you do not fulfill the promises that you went out on the campaign and that you handed over through IBC in a structured framework as a manifesto, if you didn't fulfill it, people can actually collect signatures and we just legislate around it. That, hey, listen, you promised us, for instance, within 12 months that the 2/3 gender rule would have been implemented, a solution would have come to. Now we are 4 years in. So we should have impeached you after the 12 months, because we are not the ones who asked you to put a time limit. You are the one who puts these time limits of 6 months, 12 months, So it should be. We should get to a place where that should be a ground for impeachment, not only for the president, But it should be that anyone who's running for any office, including the county assemblies, there should be a structured framework of the promises that you are going out to give the electorate, and you should be able to deliver them within a certain timeline, like a deadline. You know, the way they say deadline for submitting your paperwork within IBC or whatever, there should be a deadline for submitting your manifesto. And it's structured such that it can be monitored and evaluated within a legislative process.
I mean, with that, then there is stopgap measures in ensuring that the promises actually are fulfilled. But one asks the question then, as individuals who went all out to ensure that the president becomes president, your candidate becomes president, I mean, one would hope that as well you would be given a listening ear whenever there were concerns when it comes to the implementation of the document. Why are you listened to? Why are you being heard?
You know, it also depends on the candidates. I'll be very honest with you. Not all the candidates.
After the fact, now he's president.
Yeah. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. You see, that's more of a personality issue.
Yeah.
There is no, we can only hope that I have worked with this guy during the campaign. I hope that this guy, when he gets into power, he will be able to fulfill the promises. It's a hope. And then you can only make that assessment based on, I have seen how he responds to certain situations. I believe that he will be able to do ABCD. But if he gets into office and shows you all the middle finger, then it's done. Then there's nothing you can do. He's in office. He has the sword. He has power. I mean, the most you can do is use, which I did, is use the positions. For instance, if like you're in parliament, then you would remind yourself, hey, you're a senator. Go and play oversight. You know, these monies have been released for certain things. Like, for instance, when they did the 1 billion sanitary pads things, which I know they squandered. They squandered that money. And some of the people who squandered that money have been seeing them now, you know, bringing the same pads as in form of campaigns. But I'll tell you this. You can only go back to parliament. That's why, you know, you try to talk to him. You say, this is happening, there's this. But then if he doesn't listen, and if you are lucky enough to have been elected or nominated to parliament, then you go to parliament and do your work as a legislator. But you see, that's very unfair to the people of Kenya, because what do? They can only demonstrate, picket, and be shot. So, and that's why I'm saying there's a lacuna in law there, because there should be a basis of impeachment based on the promises that you did not fulfill. And all those promises should have a timeline. And it should be an exception that something absolutely horrendous or that was beyond your control happened, that promise was not fulfilled. But if you look at, and I rely heavily on the Women Charter, because that's where I played a huge role. If you look at just some basic things, like, for instance, the first one, we said we are going to provide financial and capacity building support for women through the Hustler Fund for women-led cooperatives. The first year we went in a bang, and it was Hustler Fund 500 shillings. And there was a lot of questions of what can you do with 500 shillings?
Yeah.
And people came out and said, you can buy vegetables of the day and sell them and make your 150 profit. But we were talking about also building capacity for these women. So will they do that for a record 5 years? When you are trying to say that you will empower them, pesa mfukoni, so that they can, you know, scale up their businesses. After the first year of giving out the Hustler Fund, which was supposed to be a revolving fund, it died. You know, we used to get stats and figures of the Hustler Fund periodically. Every second week, they would put out and say, oh, in this county, this many people have taken the Hustler Fund. In this county, this many people have paid back. Now we are taking that money, we are sending. What happened to that? Because it was a pyramid scheme. And the pyramid scheme, the first few people are beneficiaries. After that, it's downhill. That's why it's very quiet. You don't hear anything about the Hustler Fund. You don't even see the people who used to come out and defend the Hustler Fund, the cabinet secretaries and PSs, talking about it anymore. Because if they have to come and give us the facts of it, is that it doesn't exist.
It's gone.
It's like we're just dishing out money, because the rate of payback is non-existent. It's not a revolving fund anymore. It's a grant. People are taking the money and changing their funds and moving on. And you remember we promised people that we will remove everyone from the list of CRB. And that was such a big thing, because there are people who are like, I can't get access to funding because I'm on CRB of a small loan. Now, those people were removed. They took the fund. Sometimes 3 times, they never paid. And you can't even list them, because if you list them, you said that you will not be listing them on the CRB because you understand the pain points. So it was really, like, when you think about it, it was more of let's just do it, and the first year we will show something, and after that, that's why you don't hear about it. Then you go to the second thing of the Women Charter. They say realization of the 2/3 gender rule in elective and appointive positions in the public sector within 12 months following the election, including 50% of cabinet positions to women. 50% of cabinet positions to women. That one, who will he blame? You can blame the part of the elective thing because and even that one he can try to blame, but he has captured parliament. So if he wanted to pass the amendment that will make sure that 2/3 elective would be settled on county and both National Assembly and Senate, he would do it in a day. He would literally do it in the first sitting of the morning session, and it would have been fixed. And that's why he wrote 12 months, because he knew, and the people that we actually knew, that we had numbers in parliament.
Yeah.
If you have numbers in parliament, you sit with your numbers during a parliamentary group meeting. You tell them, guys, we have a promise to fulfill to the people of Kenya. This promise requires a legislative amendment. So please avail yourself to parliament. We are going to have the first reading, second reading, third reading with one sitting. And we would like to pass this, and we are all on board. So, and even when they brought back this handshake thing where there was now ODM joined with UDA, what were they calling? Broad-based, that broad-based thing. Even when they did the broad-based, remember I went to KICC to sign documents and things. You remember there was big celebration. Now we are together, one big happy family. One of the pointers there was the 2/3 gender rule. How many times are you going to have it in an agenda and not do anything about it? So that one in itself, that is, by the way, anything to do with 2/3 gender rule and 50% of cabinet to be women and empowerment of women in terms of representation is William Ruto's fault, because he is the appointing authority.
You're saying that he could have done something about it.
Even now, his cabinet,
not
even now, if he listens, he should say, by the way, why don't I have 50% women? Let me add Nani and Nani. Let me put Karen Nyamu and whoever, because at this point, we really don't even care. Like, just fulfill one promise. Just fulfill it and say, but those are women. Those are
Take
women.
Two. Okay.
Put Maverick Oko. She's a woman. As in, at this point, we are not even going to question capability and skill set. We are just like, do the bare minimum. Then when you do the bare minimum, we come back and say, but hata wewe, sasa huyu anaweza fanya kazi gani, to be honest. But first, even do the bare minimum. He can't. That is his fault. He cannot blame COVID, Ebola, and whatever for 2/3 gender rule. He can't even blame the economy and the dollar rate. Yeah. That's on him. It's William Ruto's fault that women are not represented enough in cabinet, in our parastatals, in elective positions. It's, by the way, if someone asks you that, it's William Ruto's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he pledged it and he didn't put it. Then he said that he's going to increase the number of personnel at the gender desk and police stations, and that he's going to increase the anti-FGM, that is the anti-female genital mutilation board, the funding, and he's going to fully implement the anti-FGM law. First of all, that parastatal, that entity of government, the anti-FGM board, was heavily funded by the international community, UNFPA, if I'm not wrong. So when he was pledging that he's going to top up, all he had to do, because 70% of the funding was already coming from outside, it was not coming from the exchequer, all he had to do was a bare minimum from the exchequer. Do you know that the Women Enterprise Fund has never been funded since William Ruto got into office?
Why?
Because he doesn't give a damn about women. That's a fund that used to thrive during the Kenyatta era. I mean, it's an insult. This guy is literally telling the women of Kenya, you can just go die. I don't care.
I think that's a bit extreme, isn't it?
No, but what was the Women Enterprise Fund doing? When people talk about it, people think it's extreme. The Women Enterprise Fund was literally a pillar that would hold on families.
Funding businesses of women who would then be able to make
When I say he's saying women can just go die, I mean it in every literal sense. Because most of these women who voted for him actually went out of their ways, of their economic pillars in their families. You understand? In the mountain, for instance, it's the women who went out of their way to vote for William Ruto. And it is the women who drive the economies of those communities.
The thing here...
So when you starve them of let's say, for instance, under the Women Enterprise Fund, what are you doing? You're killing them. When you starve them of representation in every single forum, what are you doing? You're literally encouraging criminal activities of all forms, gender-based violence, including FGM. You are encouraging it. When you make sure that you don't place gender desks, when you don't equip the gender desks with more people, personnel, and resources, you're basically saying, I don't care that in the event that women go through whatever it is they are going through, whether it is being raped or being attacked or those domestic, you're basically saying, I don't care. I don't even care that you don't have anywhere to go and seek justice. So when I say that you are killing women, I literally mean it, that you are. You probably don't think about it that way, but you are. Remember, when we talked about the rates of FGM, yeah, they have spiked since William Ruto took office. Why? Even he can't ask himself, why are women dying more during my regime? Because in every single attempt to deal with this situation of gender-based violence and including some of the things that I raised, including in Parliament, of sexual harassment, nobody cares. They laugh about it. They make jokes about it. So what you're doing, you're encouraging the perpetrators. Remember, that same charter also said that it's going to... So aside from the welfare fund and they said establish a social welfare fund, we didn't even need that because we had so many social welfare funds that we just needed to nene. And then they said that there was a stipend, but then also here, this is what I wanted to say, operationalize the Victim Protection Board. That doesn't need anything. We even brought it to the Senate. You know, there are things which William Ruto can say, guys, my hands are tied. But there are things he can't say. You know, because you have the ultimate power. Gender desks, he can't. Whose hands are tied? Why are his hands tied? Who has tied his hands? He's the person that will say, let us budget in this nature. Let us equip this organization. Let us, make sure our women are taken care of. Basic things, street lights, basic things that we talked about, including ensuring that the SGBV courts are equipped. Actually, if you ask me, the only thing that William Ruto attempted to do, and it's because I threw a tantrum in State House, and that's why they call me mad, he attempted to provide free sanitary pads. When I say attempted, I made such a fuss about it. The whole international community was on board. The First Lady of Sierra Leone was calling the First Lady of Kenya to ask about this legislator. Can we sit down? Because this is an issue that as a country we are dealing with. I made such a big fuss about it that he couldn't ignore it. And then he gave us 1 billion that financial year that was squandered by his people.
So the things that you talk about, this brings us to our original question.
And by the way, he has never given us another budget for pads.
The things that you talk about then point to the intent. And that's what usually folks try to prove, because then you can now settle on a case. If the intent for these things never existed, there are still people today who are still fanning the flames of this conversation and saying, we will do. If you were in the inner sanctum of all of this, are we then saying that folks who are still there also know that these things will not happen, but still continue to tell Kenyans
Oh, yes,
the opposite?
they do. They know. There's a WhatsApp group that we used to be in called Project 22. And in that WhatsApp group, in fact, eventually I was violently removed by Nelson Koech, the MP for Belgut, because I was apparently a nuisance. And Cecily Mbarire said, let's, sanctify this space. We can't deal with...
These are things Gloria. Yeah.
No, but these are things I'm telling you. And if I am speaking, if someone wants to claim that it is a lie, let them come and say. I am telling you about things that I have gone through. I'm not speaking third party. I am telling you there's a WhatsApp group that we used to be in there. And when there would be a problem outside, the first point is that you would bring it there and say, guys, have you guys noticed ABCD? And we had minister, well, now I'm not in it. And we had ministers in there, so you were able to actually direct a minister and tell them. By the way, under the Women Charter, One of the promises we said we are going to safeguard our women who have gone to work abroad. Remember, there was a lot of deaths in UAE. And if I can actually read it so that no one says that, they said, I will get it. One of the things was to make sure that we create safety for women who had gone to work abroad. And how is that going? So, when an incident would happen, it would be brought to the limelight by the media and whatever. As a person, so there are people who you'd see are passionate about agriculture. There are people who were part of the creation of the promises in different sectors. For me, because I was more passionate about the women agenda, I ended up highlighting so many things that we promised and we were not fulfilling. Yeah. And one of the things I can tell you is everybody in that group knows that we have failed. Everybody in that group knows that United Democratic Alliance and William Ruto has failed. So much so that they have even stopped participating in any conversations. And I want to challenge anyone who says that I am just making noise. We had a very vibrant women league, so to speak. Very vibrant in the things that we do, all these events. And now we have been reduced to flower girls who pray during the National Prayer Day. That's where you see women. That's where you will see, for instance, they will call Senator Veronica Maina to pray, because now, as women, the only thing we can do is pray.
Just pray.
Yeah. But right now, how come they are not pushing the same agenda? How come these women that have remained strongly in government, including the chairman of the party, Governor Cecily Mbarire, where is she?
Gloria.
Because they know that we are not doing it. They know.
Yeah. Gloria, there are promises that were kept, that were given, they are not kept. We've established that. But there are new promises as well being given today. As someone who was on the inside, is it a question of it's just the same story repeating itself?
Yes. And there are few people within, I'm just reflecting on that WhatsApp group, who actually questioned him directly. Because he's in the group, and once in a while he would write for us those long motivational things. But at one point, people were tired. People were like, wewe tunakwambia ufanye hivi afu unakuja na makoti zako za motivation. So I can tell you this, it's if you're good at one thing and the one thing is to con people, it doesn't matter whether they realize that you are conning them. For you still believe you're good at that one thing, so you will continue with doing that one thing, which is lying to people, conning people, because it's so insane that when your team, by the way, first of all, that communications team that we had that would sit with him every week to tell him this is what's happening, we think we should change this, it used to come down to even his dress code. Because I know personally, I was like, these jackets you're wearing, these Kalenjin jackets that people are associated. Yeah,
Gloria.
At that time, people had made such fun about, the candidate wearing those jackets. So, as a person in the team, you would be like, maybe you need to drop this because it embodies some level of tribe, and we are trying to appease to all the tribes. So we were very candid in those spaces, and that's what made the candidate prosper. That's what made the candidate, like there are areas where people were afraid of him. And we would tell him, this region, the feedback we're getting, people are afraid of you. So perhaps loosen and talk to people who are jua kukaa na watu. And he would listen. Immediately he went to State House, that team was disbanded.
I see.
Because he didn't need it anymore. I'm already in power. Yeah. And the problem with that is that, especially now that you're in power, more than anything, you still need that team, because by the time we've reached a place where the electorate is so fed up of you and the electorate has lost trust of you, surely someone should have already told you by month 3. People are thinking you're lying because you keep promising. How about stop promising?
So what needs to be done today? And let's look at the psyche of Kenyans, because if about a minute to go, what needs to be done today? If Kenyans have realized that the promises made were never intended to be kept, and that they won't be kept, at least not in the foreseeable future, and they're making a decision in the next 12 months.
You're sure they won't be kept in 6 months?
Well, Twake Dam was supposed to have been completed in May.
6 months.
That may be a bit of an issue.
We were supposed to have that conference in Bomas.
Right. So what do Kenyans do? What's the solution?
The solution that Kenyans have already found, me being one of the Kenyans who got duped and was part of duping other Kenyans by believing in this guy. By the way, I take that because I can't change that. Kenyans have already decided that the only solution they have is to get this guy out of office. And unfortunately, there is nothing that he can do to turn that around because he simply doesn't have time. He has a trust deficit with the people who put him in office. By the time your boss doesn't trust you and thinks that you are a thief, you are a murderer, all these things people think about your boss, there is no way they're going to keep you in office. And I think the realization, even within his team that is now quiet, is that we can't salvage this. And that's why they are running helter-skelter. When they were voting for the budget, all those MPs ran away. Those MPs are not even going to get re-elected, especially the ones in the mountain. For sure, they have no ground to be re-elected, but still they felt the need to run away and not support their boss. That's how bad it is. It's so bad that even the people who have accepted, they have lost their seats because of the association by you, they still don't feel the need to go into the lost cost fallacy and go in and vote. So, it's that bad. It's as bad as even your cabinet secretaries are wrapping up their loans, mortgages, because they know there's no chance this guy's going to go back. They know it. And by the time he got to that place, I'm sorry to say, is because he got into office and decided he cannot be criticized, he cannot be corrected, he is a micromanager, and he cannot listen to his bosses, the people who elected him.
We'll end on that. Gloria Orwoba, thank you for being here this morning, because there's a lot to see through. There's a lot to still tinker about with it in our brains for Kenyans to then make a decision moving forward. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.